Hello again, and welcome back to our introductory discussion of ethics. In the first lesson, we talked about situations we find ourselves in that involve the moral dimension of life. As I hope is becoming increasingly clear, studying ethics will provide you with an improved understanding of your own moral compass and tools for interacting with people who hold different moral beliefs than you. In this second video, we'll expand and deepen your knowledge by investigating reasons that have been provided through the ages for doing the right thing. Along the way, we'll watch scenes from a few movies that depict these reasons on the silver screen. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy. Let's begin by considering whether morality is needed in the first place. For this, I'd like you to meet a college friend of mine who, to protect his identity, I'll call Carl the kleptomaniac. Carl was my roommate for the first year of college in the 1980s, long before security cameras had become part of our daily lives. Because we were roommates, Carl and I had plenty of time to hang out, studying together most evenings. For a study break, we were in the habit of grabbing snacks at a convenience store in the student union. Sometime in the middle of the semester, I told Carl that I would have to forego the usual snack run because I was out of money for the week. He responded that I should not worry because he would pick up snacks for me. We happily went to the store, and I witnessed the first of many times that Carl would grab whatever he wanted, bags of candy from a back aisle or a bottle of soda, which he promptly stuffed into a pocket of his backpack. He would then buy a pack of gum from the distracted store clerk and walk out of the store without paying for any of the other items. This went on an entire year, and not once did Carl get caught. Students are typically confounded when I tell this story, exclaiming that of course Carl's actions are immoral. But are they? What exactly is wrong with what Carl did? Pause the film and jot down your response to this question before moving on. Well, what did you put? Is there anything wrong with what Carl did? And if so, what? Let me add a few points for you to consider. First, Carl didn't directly harm anyone. He stole from a store, and the loss to the store owner was negligible. Even if the owner noticed that items were missing, so what? From Carl's perspective, stealing is great. He was able to have his cake, in this case candy and soda pop, and eat it too. You might object, but Professor Grofanning, Carl will eventually be caught, and when he is, he won't think as much of stealing as he does now. Perhaps you're right. If Carl had gotten caught, he would have regretted his actions. But does this mean that morality just depends upon consequences? If the consequences are good, the act is moral? What about cases like this one, when there are no bad consequences? Or perhaps you might respond, what if everyone stole? Well, what would happen if everyone steals whenever they feel like it? Think through the implications of this scenario. Again, pause the video if you need to. I imagine that if everyone stole, we wouldn't leave things out in the open where they can easily be taken. We would put them under lock and key. If this is true, notice that it isn't much different than our earlier answer. Stealing is wrong because of negative consequences. If one can get away with something, however, stealing is perfectly acceptable. Finally, you might tell me that Carl will have a guilty conscience. He will forever have to live with the knowledge of his actions. But I swear, Carl never seemed to feel guilty. And even if he did, what's wrong with a guilty conscience? How does feeling bad show that beyond having to live with oneself, an action is morally wrong? Let's stop here. There are certainly other considerations that you might be thinking of. At a minimum, I hope that you appreciate why reasons for doing the right thing may not be as self-evident as first appears. Why should one worry about ethics? What's the point of morality anyway? As we have seen, this is a surprisingly tough question to answer. Actually, the question can be broken into two questions. 1, why does society need morality? And 2, why should I be moral? Why should a person do the right thing if they can do wrong and get away with it? One reason we need morality is to provide a framework for achieving our collective goals and establishing a system to resolve conflicts that appeals to shared principles of justice. Morality, then, is a social activity, a form of coercion that we voluntarily accept. Without it, life would be, as the English philosopher Thomas Hobbes has famously remarked, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Justifying morality by appealing to social benefits has famously been explored in William Golding's book and the movie Lord of the Flies. In the story, a group of boys from an English private school have been cast adrift on an uninhabited island and have created their own social system. For a while, the constraints of civilization keep things peaceful, but soon their system unravels into brutal chaos. Let's watch the movie at the point where the constraints of morality, as represented by a white conch seashell, give way to mob rule and survival of the fittest.
And another thing, you can't have everybody talking at once. We shall have to put our hands up like you do at school. Then I'll give him the conch.
I agree with Ralph. Got to have rules and obey them. After all, we're not savages. We're English, and the English are best at everything. So we'll have lots of rules, and when anybody breaks them...
Things are beginning to break up. I don't know why. It all began well. Then people started forgetting what really matters. The most important thing for all of us is getting rescued. So now let's discuss who does what. And when we have decided, we can start again. And be careful about things like the fire.
You shut up, you fat slug.
I got the conch. Oh, Jack, let him speak. He's got the conch.
And you shut up. Who are you anyway, just sitting there telling people what to do? You can't hunt, you can't sing.
I'm chief. I was chosen.
Why should choosing make any difference? Telling people what to do?
Piggy's got the conch.
That's right. Favor Piggy as you always do.
Jack!
Jack!
The rules, you're breaking the rules.
Who cares?
Because the rules are the only thing we got.
Bollocks to the rules. We're strong. We hunt. The beast will hunt it down and beat and beat.
Even if morality is needed for societal reasons, as demonstrated by the movie Lord of the Flies, there is a further question that we need to ask. Why should I be moral? Why should I not get away with what I can while others follow moral guidelines? The story of Klepto Karl hints at this further, perhaps more difficult question. Let's take a look at 3 historically significant answers that have been provided. The first answer is perhaps the most troubling. There is no reason for being moral. Only appearances and social consequences matter. We should all get away with what we can. This answer was provided over 2,000 years ago by the philosopher Plato in the Republic, where he tells the story of Gyges, a shepherd who stumbles upon a ring that, at his command, makes him invisible. While in this state, Gyges can indulge in his greed to the fullest without fear of getting caught. He can thus escape the restraints of society, its laws and punishments. As you might imagine, Gyges proceeds to kill the king, seduce the queen, and become king himself. The question raised by Plato's story is this: wouldn't we all do likewise if we had the ring? The Ring of Gyges story was updated in the 1996 movie Groundhog Day, starring Bill Murray. In the movie, Murray is a weather reporter who gets stuck reliving the same day over and over. Whatever he does never lasts, as the same day begins again every 24 hours. Just like Gyges in Plato's original story, Bill Murray quickly learns that there are no consequences for his actions, and therefore little reason for adhering to society's constraints. Let's take a look at the scene where he figures this out.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Shoot.
What if there were no tomorrow?
No tomorrow. That would mean there would be no consequences. There would be no hangovers. We could do whatever we wanted. Ah!
That's true. We could do whatever we want.
Hey, Phil, if we wanted to hit mailboxes, we could let Ralph drive.
Yeah.
Oh! Hey, Phil! Oh, I think they want you to stop.
Hang on. It's the same thing your whole life. Clean up your room, stand up straight, pick up your feet, take it like a man. Be nice to your sister. I'm not gonna live by their rules anymore. I noticed that. You make choices and you live with them.
A second reason that a person should do the right thing is fear of external punishment. Either we will be caught by the state and thrown into the slammer, or worse, God rewards and punishes people with absolute justice on the basis of their virtue and vice. Fear of external punishment, including a guilty conscience, which we spoke about earlier, is perhaps the most common reason given for why a person should be moral. Woody Allen considers this view in his Oscar-nominated film Crimes and Misdemeanors. One of the characters is Judah Rosenthal, a successful doctor and respectable family man who has an affair with a flight attendant. When Judah tries to end their relationship, the flight attendant threatens to tell his wife. Fearful of the consequences should this happen, Judah seeks advice from two people, his rabbi and his brother. On the advice of his brother, he hires a hitman to kill the mistress. Stricken by guilt after the dirty deed is done, Judah turns to religious teachings of his childhood, believing for the first time that a just God is watching over him and passing judgment. Eventually, Judah learns to live with knowledge of what happened, and the movie ends with him and his wife in loving embrace. At least how Woody Allen tells the story, there's no basis for morality beyond negative consequences. Enjoy a brief montage of the movie.
Dear Miriam Rosenthal, your husband and I are more than intimate friends and have been deeply in love for over 2 years now. I need an open exchange with you to clear things. For all three of us to go on, the situation has got to be confronted in some fashion.
Why did you write that letter?
You know why we've been through it.
You want to destroy my life and my family?
I wanted to know the kind of man she's married to.
I'm in such trouble, Ben. What is it? I need to talk to someone. Can't you break it off? The woman won't allow it. All I know is after 2 years of shameful deceit where I led this double life, I awakened as if from a dream and realized what I'd be losing.
True acknowledgement of a mistake, there can be a forgiveness, too.
I know Miriam. Her values, her feelings, her place among our friends and colleagues.
But what choice do you have if the woman is going to tell her? You have to confess the wrong and hope for understanding. I couldn't go on living if I didn't feel with all my heart a moral structure with real meaning and forgiveness. And some kind of higher power. Otherwise, there's no basis to know how to live.
I'm in serious trouble. She won't take money. She won't listen to reason. I even toyed with the idea of telling everything to Miriam, but she'd never be able to live with it.
What would you like me to do?
I don't know, but she's killing me.
Want me to have somebody talk to her?
Like what?
Straighten her out.
That's what I'm saying, Judah. If the woman won't listen to reason, then you go on to the next step.
What, threats? Violence? What are we talking about here?
She can be gotten rid of.
I just wanted you to know everything came out fine. It's over and done with, no problems, so you can forget about it. Judah, relax. You're white. You're gonna have a breakdown. It's over.
What do you expect me to be, my old self? I jump when the phone rings. No good can come of this, Jack.
Hey, don't be so guilty. I kept you uninvolved.
אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על אכילה מורor.
Come on, Saul, get on with it. I'm hungry. Come on.
You mind me?
Nonsense, anyway. What are you putting everyone through this mumbo-jumbo? Bring on the main course. This is the 20th century. You have young boys sitting here. Don't fill their heads with superstition.
Oh, the intellectual, the school teachers.
Please,
Spare us your Leninist philosophy just this once.
What, you're afraid if you don't obey the rules, God's going to punish you?
What are you saying, May? There's no morality anywhere in the whole world.
Listen, for those who want morality, there's morality. Nothing's handed down in stone.
And if a man commits a crime, if he kills,
then one way or another he will be punished.
If he's caught, so.
If he's not caught, that which originates from a black deed will blossom in a foul manner.
You're relying a little too heavily on the Bible, so.
No. Whether it's the Old Testament or Shakespeare, murder will out.
who said anything about murder?
You did.
Did I?
And I say, if he can do it and get away with it, and he chooses not to be bothered by the ethics, then he's home free. Remember, history is written by the winners.
I have a great murder story.
Yes?
Great plot. Yeah. And after the awful deed is done, he finds that he's plagued by deep-rooted guilt. Little sparks of his religious background, which he'd rejected, are suddenly stirred up. He hears his father's voice. He imagines that God is watching his every move. Suddenly, it's not an empty universe at all, but a just and moral one, and he's violated it. Now he's panic-stricken. He's on the verge of a mental collapse. An inch away from confessing the whole thing to the police. And then, one morning, he awakens, and the sun is shining, and his family is around him. Mysteriously, the crisis is lifted. He takes his family on a vacation to Europe, and as the months pass, he finds he's not punished. In fact, he prospers.
Come on, darling. Let's think about going home, huh?
Nice talking to you. Good luck to you. Miriam, we're going to make a wedding like this with Sharon, and I can't wait. She'll be radiant.
You're looking very handsome tonight.
And you look beautiful.
Welcome back. Returning to the discussion, the last reason that has historically been given for morality is Plato's answer in the Ringa Gyges scenario that we touched on earlier. In a nutshell, Plato equates morality with mental health or psychological harmony. The soul, he says, is composed of three parts: a rational part, a desiring part, and a spirited part. They are well ordered when they play their proper role, with a rational faculty ruling over the spirited and emotional parts. Having a well-ordered soul leads to mental health, and mental health is something that clearly benefits the possessor. It is a state we enjoy being in. Hence, the moral life is also the happy life. On the other hand, the immoral person is unbalanced, at the mercy of their desires, and the thoroughly immoral person is virtually crazy. Asking to choose between being moral and immoral is like asking to choose between being healthy and sick. Even if the immoral person has material benefits, they can't enjoy them in their awful state, whereas the good person may find joy in the simple pleasures despite poverty and ill fortune. Congratulations on completing your second lesson in the Introduction to Ethics series. As we have seen, it's not immediately obvious why one should do the right thing, if only appearances and social consequences matter, as the case of Klepto Karl illustrates. If you accept the moral point of view, though, ethics helps us to achieve our collective goals. On a personal level, doing right often comes down to self-interest and the fear of external punishment, or to maintaining psychological harmony. Whatever the case, we'll continue to investigate the basis of morality in future episodes of this course. In the next lesson, we review families of ethical values. Until then, don't be like Klepto Karl. Unless, of course, you don't think he did wrong.